Hello, the internet. It's so outstanding to be talking to you on New Comic Book Day. I'm usually only here talking to you on Fridays. So, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for the first of our Creator AMA series. We are so excited to be doing this for the first time today with such an icon. If you don't know, I'm going to welcome you into the Popverse, which is a virtual realm created by ReadPop. We are celebrating the best in TV, movies, and comics, and there's going to be a lot of comics talk today. Friends, I am your video producer and host, Ashley Victoria Robinson, and I am so excited to be doing this today. Jake Hefner, top of the morning, Popverse. Ooh, if I took that lower third away, look how much better it is. Woo! Top of the morning to you too, Jake. I hope you're doing well. If you're watching this live in the chat, don't forget that you can pop in there. You can leave your questions. We can bring them up on the screen just like this. Friends, we're going to get started with the king of comics. He started writing such incredible books and is now leading the charge with his own universe, coming through Batman, mastering horror. Like, there's not enough. You saw my brain have an entire fart. There's not enough good and incredible and astonishing things that I can say about the person joining us today. So everyone, please put your hands together out there on the internet. We're all going to do a round of applause as we welcome in the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend. Scott Snyder is here today. Hi, Scott.
Hey, Ashley, happy birthday to you guys. I'm so excited to be a part. I really, when Chris told me about everything you guys had planned when you started, I mean, I was so excited about it, and you guys have exceeded all expectations. So I'm very proud to be a part of your sort of anniversary celebration.
Oh, that's so sweet. Well, thank you for being our guinea pig as well as we try out this new format. We couldn't have picked a better
Always.
person to be joining us. Okay, so let's get right into it because we only have you. We have you for a good time, but not a long time. We have a couple questions that came to us early from fans, including a fan who says, "Hi, I was wondering who inspires you to create comics? Did you always know that creating comics would be your career?"
Oh man, what a good question. There's so many people that inspired me, but honestly, I mean, it was all I wanted to do as a kid. This picture behind me, actually, that's from when I was 13 years old. And I mean, like, I've been a fan forever, and that's a con I went to on my 13th birthday, and with my dad. It was across from Penn Station in New York City, and Todd McFarlane was there, and we waited like 3 hours for Todd, and I had a portfolio of art and things that were just basically copies of him and like Rob Liefeld. And I mean, I was not particularly good, but I waited forever to get to him, and I had like $100 maybe that I had saved up for a page, and Todd was kind enough to look at my stuff, tell me he really thought I was going to make it, and then give me a page that was worth like at least like 10 times what I had, and then draw me a little Spider-Man and happy birthday on the back, so I would never sell it. But it's all I ever wanted to do. And for me, I think the people that have inspired me the most, the Frank Millers and the Neil Gaimans and Alan Moores and Grant Morrisons. I mean, they're people that aren't just trailblazers, and that did something that really changed the game, things that I can't really touch the hem of at all. But they're also people that really followed certain tenets about always being exciting to themselves, never settling, always trying to do things that push them and the medium forward. And so that's the thing I think I'm most inspired by, especially at this stage of my career. Creators that continually try and strive to stay exciting to themselves and fresh, and are willing to take some risks. That's kind of the phase I'm in for myself right now.
I'm so glad that we started with this question because we have a question in the chat to people. What's your favorite comic from Scott Snyder? And Tiffany Babb has responded with American Vampire, which very famously started as a pretty fantastic collaboration. And you've collaborated with, I mean, kings and queens across the industry as well. So I feel like you're setting yourself up well for those people who inspire you.
Oh, I hope. I mean, my biggest hope, honestly, it sounds corny, is to try and welcome new people in right now, both, I mean, to do stuff of my own that does or follows, at least to some extent, the same kind of tenet that I was saying earlier, where I'm trying to do series that push me creatively and put me in contact with creative people that I know will challenge me, whether they're brand new to me, and like Valeria Favaccia that I'm doing By a Thread with, or Hayden Sherman, who I did Wildfire with, or a couple other new people I'm working with, or people that I just know always push me and I push them, and we make a good team that way, like Jock or
Jock is incredible.
yeah, and Rafa as well. But American Vampire is like, has a very, very special place in my heart. We keep talking about bringing it back in a new way now that the rights are kind of coming back to us soon. But it was always my treehouse. Like when I was at DC and I was hanging on by the seat of my, by the skin of my teeth, being like, how am I chosen to write Batman when I'm so not ready for this? American Vampire was the place I could go, and while everybody was saying like, you don't know Batman as well, and I was like, I don't, you know it better than me, I'm trying my best. But American Vampire was like, I know this world better than anybody because I made it up with Rafa. And so it has this like intense kind of treehouse feel for me. I have this intense love for that series. I have like fan stuff over there I can show you later around the office that like people made Skinner, a little Skinner bobblehead.
What?
I keep a lot of American Vampire stuff around all the time as like totems for me.
That's so cool. And also, like, you were talking about your collaborators earlier, and I feel like, and I'm sure we'll get deep into like the Substack and Distillery and creator owned of it all. I feel like you're really pushing the boundaries on the types of stories that you are creating with these newer talents. Like, we're getting all ages stories from you. It's not all just American Vampire.
yeah. Like that's been the sort of joy of this year. And the last 2 years really was just, DC, I got to do so many things there that I can't believe. Like I look at like, I was able to make like, Reaper Batman riding a dragon cycle and Wonder Woman with an invisible chainsaw. And like I'm amazed with the latitude they gave me and my co-creators to make things that we really believed in. Mm-hmm. But I felt at that time like I had done the biggest stuff I could do and the things that mattered the most to me. And it was time to like just sort of, it'd be very easy, honestly, at that point to continue to do Batman. Or I still have like 10, like at this point, I have like 10 or 15 Batman stories in my head that I'm like, I would love to do. But it honestly just feels like it's too, just a little bit too safe. So taking these couple years to be like, what are the things that I wasn't able to do while I was at DC? And like, one of the things, I don't know how much I've talked about this, but like, every year when I was at DC, when I did a new exclusive contract, I fought really, really hard for the ability to have a creator-owned carve-out to do a creator-owned series. And then I never used them because I just didn't have time. So every year I'd like fight for the ability to do something and then never do it, except for like Witches. And then, that was it. So I just wanted to finish on my own terms and be able to say, now I'm going to make all the kinds of weird, fun, challenging series that I haven't done, from, like you said, all ages stuff like Dudley Dotson. That's really hopeful. So much. It's so fun, right? Jamal is just a genius. And then
another icon that you're collaborating with.
Oh yeah, he's the best. I love him, and we become really close. To the bleakest, darkest stuff, the scariest stuff that I've tried, like the part prose story, Book of Evil with Jock, or a historical fiction with Tula, with Lisa, like Barnstormers, so it's been this incredible couple years where I didn't know if fans would show up and support the books, but they have, and they support us digitally. They've supported us in print and sold the books out, and I just feel luckier and more grateful to this industry and to fans than ever. I know it sounds like I'm bullshitting or just being like, but I swear, like, on my kids, like this has been the best couple years of my life creatively, not because I like it better than superheroes, but just because it validates the idea that I try to say in my class all the time that there are two rules of the class. One is write the story that you'd like to pick up and read more than any other today, no matter what it is, no matter what it says. And then secondly, just always try to be the most exciting writer to yourself on your own terms. And to have people show up and support you, even when you're doing things they're not used to from you. There's no better feeling. It just means it's the kind of fan base and kind of industry that you always hope it is, where they want to take chances. They want to go with you places that you believe in. And, it makes you want to invite more people in. That, to me, the way to pay it forward then is to try and do that and support the risks that other people are taking, especially new creators,
Okay, we have one more question from our website post, and this comes from our reader Jean-Paul, who says, "What graphic novel story would you love to see get adapted into a TV or movie, and why?" I mean, I'm assuming the answer is everything you've created.
Oh, yes. Like,
your darlings, pick your favorite child.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard. It's a hard choice.
I think
American
Jean-Paul...
Vampire, though, is the one, I think, out of all of them, because it's the one that has, I mean, it's not that I think it would be better than the others. It's more just that it spans my whole career and it has everything I love in it. Most series are sort of one sort of color of the prism for you, or a couple colors. Like Witches is deeply personal, and I'm really glad we're seeing that adapted, and I'm happy to talk more about that too, like being in that room. But the Witches is like a very dark sort of part of the light spectrum of, the creative spectrum thing. It's deeply, it has like autobiographical stuff in it. But it's sort of, real horror, my version of like the purest kind of horror, where it's very intimate. It's like your worst fears come to life. Whereas American Vampire has that, but it also has the wonder. It has the soapiness I love. It has the big epic superhero kind of quality of kaiju monsters fighting. It's got kind of everything I love to do in one place. Most series are sort of like, different sort of subsets of the things that I love. And American Vampire is one of those magical series that has like everything. But we've been really lucky. I mean, I don't know how much I've been able to talk about it or, before, but the other thing, we've been really lucky with the series we've gone out with. Like, it was a few years ago where, Jeff Lemire and I were having a conversation maybe 5 years ago. And, he's one of my closest friends. And he was talking to me about like, I love DC, I love Marvel, but I want to have more control of my own career. And one of the ways he planned on doing that was going out and making series that he loved, ongoing series, some limited, and then owning the rights with the co-creators, so that as streaming kind of rose up, you'd have more, he felt like you'd have more options to be able to get, things into development in different ways. And that money, not huge amounts of money, but that sort of being able to option your work would create this kind of sustainability. And I was like, I don't know, that sounds crazy. And then he did it. And I was like, oh, wow. And so the compass is always make stuff you love. Don't worry about the TV film aspects, but make it and own it. And so the last couple of years, we've been really lucky. We have Demons is just about, we're really close to sort of something there, but with Clear finalized, with Night of the Ghoul, it's a 20th Century, with Witches, it's at Amazon, with Noctera, it's at Netflix, Wildfires, it's Universal. So we've been really lucky. We have like, AD, even After Death, like, so we have American Vampires, Warner Brothers. So, we've been really lucky in terms of being able to go out with stuff and find good partners in TV and film too. So it's been a really fascinating period where it feels like, I'm not dying to go over there and change fields at all. That's not what I want to do. I love comics, but I would say to aspiring creators, it goes up and down, and there's definitely moments now with the strike and with everything happening in Hollywood where it's more difficult. But overall, if you look at it in 5-year periods or something, it's so different than when I was coming up, when you couldn't have this kind of control over your property. You didn't have the same amount of options of people that wanted great stories to adapt. You have a lot more power and control. And with me and my co-creators owning these things together, it's been, again, just this incredible couple of years where suddenly, you have the ability to make money and to decide about the rights of your own properties together. Some of them you might want to write, some of them you might want to be involved in, some of them you don't. And all of it is sort of a whole creative area that allows you more freedom to tell more stories that you like. You know what I'm saying? Sorry, I'm like totally going down my own corn maze of like of excitement about the where things are.
This is like a university lecture. I'm like, I should be taking notes. I'm glad that this is gonna live forever on the internet. But you teased a little bit earlier that you might be able to like talk a little bit more about like witches and witches being an adaptation. So
yeah, oh, I'm so
talk about
excited
that.
about.
I love witches.
Yeah, well, witches is one of those ones where like it went through all of these sort of permutations where we found really good partners. We were lucky enough to option it really early in the series at this place, Plan B, out in it for film.
Mhm.
And they were really kind about telling us where it was as it was developed into a film sort of screenplay. And it never quite came together as much as their intentions were good. And as Jock and I really kept playing with the idea of bringing the series back and did these little things, like little sequels to it, the Bad Egg and little pieces, getting ready to bring it back in a big way, we decided we just wanted to be a bigger part of it. So we were like, well, how would we do that? What if I try to take a stab at writing it, you take a stab at doing art, and we don't do it live action, but we try and do it animation? Because I'd met a couple people in animation in the years, and I was like, I just think in my heart, I know it sounds hokey, but I really believe it's this like untapped vein. And it was right before Invincible came out and all this stuff, and then that really proved to me that in Castlevania that like there is a much wider lane for adults that want to watch R-rated animated, like creatively weird, fun, dark stuff. And I just think that there's a whole genre that's unexplored there. Like we mostly just get, which I love, but like anime, and I watch anime with my kids, or really heavy genre stuff or superhero stuff. You don't get like horror, or you don't get like, you get adult comedy. You don't get like drama and whatever and this. And I just think so Witches is this kind of weird guinea pig for them. And we sold it as like, let us try this, get live action writers for it, like invest in it a little bit, animate Jock's art so it looks like the comic, and let us tell something that's even more disturbing and more personal and more R-rated and all of it, but like more meaningful, like in a bigger, robust way, because the series is actually quite short, you know? And so they were like, all right, go for it. And so it's been this incredible experience. We have these great people in the room. One of them, I'm show running it, but my co-showrunner is this incredible writer, Marian Dare, who worked on Better Call Saul and Curb Your Enthusiasm. And she was the
small shows that really niche people liked.
I know. And then she just show ran Echo, which is coming out from Marvel. So
sure.
Yeah, so she's fantastic. Jeff Howard, who's from the Mike Flanagan group on Midnight Mass and Haunting of Hill House. So really amazing people that I'm learning from. And so we were in the room. We have 20 weeks to do the first season, and we're guaranteed 2 seasons. So I'm really excited. And the producer on it, Kevin Coldy, he worked on Castlevania Adventure Time and all kinds of great stuff. So it has like all the ingredients, and we're 2 episodes into 8 of the first season, like sort of outlined and that stuff so far, and the season's broken. So, and then the strike hit. So we're taking a break until the strike's over. I totally support all the WGA stuff, but it was amazing. The only problem was like I totally underestimated the amount of work being in one of those rooms is where I had done the mini room, like a room that kind of got stuff together for the green light. But it was definitely less intense. So intense just in terms of the hours and stuff. So as much as I absolutely want the strike over and did not want it to happen in all of it, although I believe in the things, like it is almost like, oh my God, I'm actually in the sunlight and like going to a baseball game with my kids, and I'm getting ahead on all my comic stuff. So it's a weird moment, but Witches will come out on Amazon. It's, and it'll be out now with the strike, probably beginning of 25 is what I would think, instead of 24, because it takes a little while to animate it. But I can't wait for you guys to see it. It's so, I honestly like it better than the book, and I love the book. It's like, and I'm not saying that to sell it. I'm saying it because it's all the story that was in the book with Charlie. But it also tells a lot more of Sailor and her life, and it makes her really the center of it as well. Brings in some new characters, new witches, new monsters, all kinds of stuff. So it is like as black as black gets in terms of like the horror aspect. Like they're really letting us go there. There's like witch babies and horrible, like all kinds of like terrors. So it is mean and it is fun and I love it. So I can't wait for you guys to see it. And the art, they sent us like not test animation, but like just sort of like the concept stuff, and it looks just like the book animated. It's beautiful. So I'm really like, let this be what it looks like it's going to be, because I think it'll be something really, really special. And that's the only reason I really wanted to be involved in it. Was like Jock was like, I'll be in there. Jock's art directing it. I'm doing the the writing, and it just felt like, let's give it a shot. If we do an animated, we can try and make something that's like a bigger, more sort of bigger heart, bigger fangs, bigger everything version of the comic. And we're like, all right, let's do it. So it's going great. I really like it. Yeah, it's just the strike. But again, WGA strong, believe in everything. I'm going to pick it next week in the city. So we'll see.
Take pictures. It's all my Instagram feed is just people picketing the WGA locations right now.
I know. Well, I live about 2.5 hours out of the city. I'm like out in the boondocks. There's like woods and ocean over there and like raccoons and deer back here. I grew up in the city, but I live out here now. So I'm not required to go do it, but I'm trying to get in and do it at least a bunch of times, and try and support it, because it's hard with the kids, but I want to be a part of it. So I'm going to go in and do it.
Alrighty, I'm going to bring in some chats from our YouTube, from our live watchers. So this is from Tom Trainer. We're going into Batman mode, who says, Scott, what is your view on the role of Robin in Batman stories? Most of your Batman work doesn't feature much Robin. Was that from editorial, or do you prefer not to use them? Are you going to break my heart? I'm a huge Robin fan.
No, I love Robin. I mean, Dick Grayson was my whole entry point into writing Batman. And at one point, I mean, let me walk you through like my history with Robins, because at first there was a very strict editorial mandate not to use Robins at all, because there was going to be a Batman and Robin book. So it was very much like Batman needs to be Batman centric. When it was New 52, they wanted it to be focused on young Bruce. They weren't even sure they wanted the family, but I got to stick them in there in issue 1 of Batman. I felt like I almost got away with it, to be like, everybody's still here. All the Robins are still exist. And I thought they were going to say, don't do it, but they let me get away with it. But ultimately, for the first big period of Batman, they really did not want Robin involved, because they were going to do a Batman and Robin series. And they also wanted to build out Bruce as young. So I didn't get a chance. Then as it went on and there was a Batman and Robin series, the mandate became more about, can you create new characters that would be a younger supporting staff, because we want to grow these Robins into their own books. Like Damian was going to get his own book. And so that's when we started coming up with different characters that weren't going to be Robin, but that we wanted to be a supporting. I had a whole vision for a young Gotham that we didn't get to do. And I still think about it sometimes, where it was going to be a new series that a Robin could kind of lead. Ooh. But it would be all different sorts of young characters. We were going to make a Juvie, Arkham, and this, and it was going to be Damian and the Robin. I fought to do a book called Robins for a long time, and they really didn't want it. Dan didn't want it at that time. He felt it aged everybody and made them seem like too old. But the point is, we tried to create new characters in case, because we weren't allowed to use Robin. So there was going to be Duke Thomas, who was going to be the Signal. Harper Row was going to be Bluebird. Yeah. And so I had this vision of like Duke as yellow, Harper as blue. And then we wanted one more character that would almost be like a red or something like that, a black, and then have Batman. And I had an image in my head, and there's actually a future panel. I think it's in Endgame, or it's in something where he envisions a future, and he sees like Duke, he sees like a canary, and it was kind of like a thing I wanted to try, and like if our version of Batman could continue divested from the DCU, that was where we were headed. Not to not use Robin because we didn't want to, but because Robin's had a very different area that was sort of planned by editorial in different ways. The one thing I'll say really quick is I did have trouble using Damian. I wasn't allowed to use him, but the few times that I was supposed to use him to sort of his death and those things, I had a really hard time. I love the character. And Grant's run is my favorite run, but my oldest son was, when I was at that time, was 8 and then 9 and 10. and Damien is that age, and the
Yeah.
idea of seeing a 10 years old is so small. Like it really is. Like, I mean, 10 is like, you know, and thinking of my son in danger and seeing him get punched and this stuff, I just couldn't. I had a lot of trouble with it. Now I feel like he's older, and now I feel like I can sort of think about it more. But I did have trouble writing Damien for those personal reasons. Not that I didn't like him or didn't like him as a character, but it got under my skin to think of someone my son's age being hit by adult men and women and hurt. You know, even though, you know, it requires that suspension of disbelief, and I think I'm more prepared for it. But with your first kid, it's a little bit like, by the third kid, you're like, fine, whatever. I think that's where I am. I was 2 kids less back then.
As an oldest child, it's really sweet to hear that, because I feel like we usually get like, well, you're the first pancake, so like, you know, we'll get it right on round 2 or 3.
No, it really was like, you were the first one, and it was like, yeah, how do I can't write a 10-year-old, and now I have the 4-year-old, and it's like kids getting eaten in witches, kids getting, you know, like whatever, like
show.
Exactly, like in Whatchamadoodle, in Book of Evil, it's like I can't even. So yeah. Yes.
All right, Tiffany Babb wants to know, Scott, what comics are you reading and enjoying the most right now?
Well, one of the great joys right now is that some of the people I had as students over the years are now making the comics that I feel like I'm learning from. Like, first and foremost, James Tynion, you know, the fourth. I mean, I think he's the best writer in comics. And, you know, I met him when he was undergraduate, and I was an adjunct teacher. We've known each other now 15 plus years. And, you know, to see him go from, you know, someone that was always a great writer, but was, you know, loved superheroes and all this, to blossom into someone who's so his own just ecosystem of amazing work, like, and just brilliant work that I learned from, has been incredible. So, you know, Something is Killing Children and Department of Truth, and I've read Christopher Chaos, and I've read ahead on some of his new stuff from Distillery, which is going to be fucking amazing. But him. I really love what Philip Johnson, who's another former student, has been doing over in Action. And Mike Morisi, again, same thing. We were in workshop. He was in one of the workshops that I did with The Plot, and also Barbaric is one of my favorites. There's just a ton. I mean, I think one new series is the Tony Fleecs, Tim Seeley series, Local Man. I think is unbelievable, and it should get more love. Like, it just came out, and fantastic. Kelly Thompson, The Black Cloak, I just adore, and what Kelly's doing is incredible. A series that's been going a while that I really love, and I think I'm just trying to sing the praises because I feel like it deserves more attention, is Philadelphia.
Oh my God, Philadelphia is so good and
isn't
so
it so
underrated.
I mean, like, and it's like the mythology and the lore and what they do with vampires, everything is just unbelievable. So go check it out. If you liked American Vampire at all, this is like in that neighborhood of books, but it's totally its own thing and awesome. So yeah, I just think it's an interesting time, because there's more books than ever, which is both a blessing and a curse, you know. I think for both us and retailers and everybody. So you can't throw a stone without hitting something really good. And at the same time, there's so much to choose from. It can be a little overwhelming at times. So I rely on my friends for, like, also recommending stuff, you know. Oh, I got to put in, I think, the Massiverse that Kyle is doing, Kyle Higgins. And that whole universe is amazing, from Rogue Sun to Radiant Black to Radiant Pink to, I'm in awe of what Kyle is able to do. So that's kind of just some things. Some things. I will also put in a good word for the awesome Shay Grayson, who's doing Good Deeds over at IDW under our umbrella, under Dark Spaces. She's, I think, a writer that's going to just blow up in the next couple of years. And she's done a few things for Marvel and DC, and she's been writing for television, but she's just unbelievable. So go check that out. Good Deeds #1 out now.
I will also add, if anyone's not following Scott on Twitter, you're really good about, like, sharing other people's work and, like, signal boosting stuff that we assume you're interested in, or, like, collaborators that you've worked with. So, like, if you want more recommendations, go follow Scott on Twitter. Okay, we have a question from Alekuse. If I mispronounce your name, please, I'm just doing my best. I'm so sorry. Says, hi, Scott. I have a question for you. No, I fall on the sword. How do you force yourself to write, especially when starting a story? I always struggle with that.
Oh man, I struggle with it all the time. Alec, I'm gonna assume it's Alec is your first part of your name, but right now, I mean, like literally today, this morning, I'm trying to do the next series for the Dark Spaces line. I'm trying to keep that series a place where I just do really tight psychological stories with no supernatural stuff. And I've had this idea that I've been sitting on for a long time. And you'd think at this point with, all the series that I generally do that it would be easier to start. But I go through it every time, man. Like I really need to know that I know the ending. I mean, everyone has a different process. Some people, I have one friend who, if he knows the ending, can't write it because it's too boring. And then once he writes through it and understands where he wants to go, he rewrites to make it, tighter. For me, I really need to figure out what I think I'm saying and what the ending is. And I get really nervous about, like, am I wrong? Is this the wrong? Do I believe this? Do I not believe this? And I really need to stress test it a lot. So believe me, I go through it. I just think it's always going to feel uncomfortable, and it's always going to feel like a leap of faith at some point to just be like, now is the time when I'm procrastinating. Like I'm not gaining anything anymore from like trying to figure it out. I'm just doing that anxious sort of chasing my own tail thing. And now it's time to just say, this is going to feel uncomfortable. This is going to make me feel like I am a bad writer today, but I'm going to do it because tomorrow I'll feel better about it. And I go through it every time, man. I go through it on every book all the time. Like and I think the thing that I'd say to you, Alec, is like, it proves you care. It's a good thing. I wouldn't want to feel like, oh, I could just jump into anything from the beginning. And at this point in my career, I really do feel it's, proud of that. Like, there are a few things that, I mean, there's a lot that I look back on and I'm like, I wish I had done this better or that better, but I am very proud of the fact that I sincerely, on my kids, believe that, like, I've never let anything go out the door that I didn't think I was doing my best on. I know I've like fucked things up and made sure that I've made mistakes, but not for lack of worrying and trying to make them the best that I can. And I think what you're saying is a function of that. Like, worrying as much as you do means you care about getting it right, which is good. But then at a certain point, you got to be like, this is going to feel really uncomfortable, but I'm just going to do it and just go do it.
Is this how you start all your page ones?
Pretty much. It is pretty much, it is definitely like, I feel like I have these lines from like cringing from like the beginning of each thing. Like I should have like a mouth guard because I like clench my teeth. And
oh, no.
Yeah, I mean, like, I really do. I still like, I really sweat it. I do. I mean, I still, you always have imposter syndrome. And is this where they're going to figure out I'm a fraud, or is this the one where you just totally blow it and you just, you get it all wrong. But I mean, again, I think it's a good sign, that you feel that way. I've known people, nobody I'm close with, but I've known people in books and in comics that get to a stage and they don't care the same way. And there's a safety in that, right? You'd think it's nice to be like, oh, well, I know what I'm doing. It's fine. But I just think that means your best work's behind you if you feel that way. You've got to be afraid to be like, maybe this will be the best thing I've done. Maybe this will be the worst thing I've ever done. You should always be in that really uncomfortable space. I'm literally right now, I'm working on this. I'm like, some days I'm like, this is the best thing I've worked on. And then I'm like, is this a total mess? And not, that. And that's the way it should be, really, I think.
Wait, will you tell us what book it is?
Well, I mean, the one I'm working on right now hasn't been announced yet. So
okay.
It's something I'm going to be doing it with Dark Horse down the line. But I'm also, the book for Distillery, I'm really excited about. And you go through different phases. When you're in the phase where you're just like, it's ideas still, and you're like, oh, this is amazing. That's like, it's like the reaping and sowing thing. You're like, this is amazing. This is amazing. And then you're like, oh no. But this part is the amazing part for the Distillery stuff, where I'm really plotting out ideas and having a ton of fun. It's the part where Alec was talking about, where it's like, going to this, actually start it. That gets a little bit like, but no, the I'll tell you this, like, one of the books that I really was, two books that I think I was sweating the most recently. by a thread because I'm writing it with my kid, with
Yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
16-year-old. And just like the balance of like letting him tell the story and really just watching him blossom and being excited, and then also needing to make sure to guide it enough,
Mhm.
that's been really nerve-wracking. But Duck and Cover, the other one with Raphael, I really have this pressure in my head about making sure that we have a standard with American Vampire. I don't want any follow-up to not be something that has the same level of quality.
Yeah.
And so even though we have like a really fun way of working where he's like one of my best friends, and so we're just like, dude, what if we do this? And on American Vampire, it was always that way. What if we do this? And he's like, yes, I'm going to draw it. And I'm like, okay, I'll draw it, and then I'll adapt, and then I'll do this. And it was very like loosey goosey, but we had real strong ideas about what we were saying and what the story was. But we'd work, with this one, I'm more like, I don't know. I've been so nervous about like just making sure that, every beat, it's about a bunch of kids in the 1950s that hide under their desks, like during a nuclear attack from Russia, and then miraculously survive. And then all of a sudden, all this weird stuff starts happening. Like the Russians invade and they have all this tech they shouldn't have. And so it gets more and more pulpy and fun. And it's got kind of a lot of the DNA of American Vampire stuff. But yeah, that one, those two, the one working with my son, and also doing any kind of follow-up, even though it's not like some, huge 10-year series, but any follow-up with Raphael, doing the first thing we've done since American Vampire outside of Batman stuff makes me, I've been like that. I've been like just super nervous about making sure that everything is really strong.
Graham McMillan has a question that I think is a great follow-up.
Hey, Graham.
And he says, I know Graham is our favorite person here in the Popverse video team. Graham says, Scott, what creators do you look to as models for your career? You've talked about Grant and others as creative inspiration, but in terms of juggling creator-owned and work-from-home books, who do you look at? And I think this is a great question because I feel like you are everywhere in comics right now.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. And Graham, thank you for everything you do too. I mean, I love people that we've been, have been there for the long haul and always been working in comics to make sure that things are, are better and better. It's hard because Grant to me is a gold standard of somebody who, and it's not just that though, dude. It's like, it is the work for hire. It's the balance of like doing your own stuff and doing work for hire.
Yeah.
Lemire is as someone on my level, Lemire is someone who really inspires me as someone who makes very good decisions, I think, about when to dive in and when to dive out and do your own stuff. But I hate the feeling, and I do feel like I have some creator friends when you're getting trapped, of being like, I have to go back to DC, or I have to do a series that's going to hit a lot of money or this stuff right now for this, because, and so people that have been able to figure out ways of, always taking projects that feel like they're evolving. So, Grant to me is like a gold standard, but I have friends that I really admire in that regard. I think, like Ed Brubaker, for example, and Greg Rucka and Jason Aaron, and again, Lemire, but yeah, I don't know, it's hard because I don't really look to other, when it comes to this, like the balance, sorry to go on about this question, but it hits a nerve, because I used to have this conversation with James Tynion all the time, which is, embarrassing to admit. But when I was coming up at DC, I would always ask him, like, who do you think that, like, I'm writing my own stuff, but like, where am I in the constellation of people? And it was always because I was trying to see if I had enough power to fight certain editorial things at DC. So I'd be like, well, who am I equivalent to? Am I equivalent to Nick Spencer or this? Do you think, am I like, because I had no sense. I was like in a bubble, and I was terrified of how I was doing. And so it was always comparing yourself to, do you have the sort of clout that somebody else had? Only because it was like, well, then can I argue this to Dan and Bob at DC? And there was always this kind of, and so now what James always said back to me was like, what's happening to you is a little bit different and a little bit, it's your own thing, where I was incredibly lucky and in a lot of ways to get picked out of nowhere to get to write Detective Comics and then Batman and just go on this rocket ship ride the first couple of years of my career. And it definitely like caused me a lot of distress as well, as much as I couldn't be more grateful for it. I mean, those were also very tough years for my family, for me, and, you know, my mental health and all that stuff, because I just felt so undeserving of it. But that said, the thing I'm getting to is this, because I know I don't mean to go on and on for this question, but it is personal. Is like I try really hard not to think about that stuff now, just because I start to worry, you know, and I feel like it'd be like, well, when did Grant go back to DC, or when did, you know, how far has Mark Miller stayed away? And I try and remember what James said, which is, you know, and he's been a great example of somebody who's really blazed his own trail, which is just go with your gut. Like, how do you feel about what's most exciting to you right now? And honestly, like right now, I'm really happy doing my stuff. But I have started thinking about a return to superheroes in different ways. And there are things that excite me, opportunities, but I'm trying extremely hard not to use other people's careers as models in a certain way, because I think at this point for me, it maybe it winds up being counterproductive. So I'm trying to just be like, I'm just on my own weird path, and try and just be sincere about it to myself and say, look, the next couple of years, I really want to do this, whether it makes commercial sense or not, I'm going to do it. Whether, you know, if creatively it feels right, just do it. Who do I want to be in comics for myself, you know, that, and those decisions have been really rewarding the last few years. So trying to operate that way. So I mean, honestly, I could have answered this question in like 5 names probably, and now I've gone on this whole like lying down on a couch therapist thing. But it has been a real journey to go from somebody who's brand new and constantly trying to figure out your own place by comparing yourself to other people, to being in a place now where it's important to me to sort of look at myself as a sort of my own kind of singular trajectory, and completely organic, you know, to just my own priorities, without worrying about whether or not it makes any sense to anybody else.
I just want to say that I really appreciate your honesty with that, because I was working in a comic book store when you started on Batman, and it felt so meteoric, and it felt like you were crushing it from jump, and we like could not keep any collections of American Vampire on the shelf at that same time. So to hear like the reality of it is really, I think, humbling for me, and I'm sure for everyone watching. So I really appreciate
I appreciate you saying that. No, I appreciate you saying that. It was not to go, I'll give a few more sentences about it, but just because I feel like it's important to maybe be honest with people that, you know, that you like, if you struggle with this at all. But yeah, I mean, I really, those couple of years, you know, it hurt my marriage a lot. It hurt everything a lot. Like, and it was basically as though, imagine you're like playing baseball at your like local field, and somebody comes along and they're like, you can play in the major leagues in the World Series Game 7, and you're pitching, and you're just like, what? Like, I have no credentials for this. And I'd spent a lot of time in books. You know, I had credentials in another field, and I was a comic fan from birth, and I had done detective, but even detective was terrifying. You know, all of it was terrifying. And so I just felt like it was almost like the biggest blessing in the world. And I felt so lucky, like I couldn't express, but I also felt like it was a bit of a curse, where you're like, you've been given your dream job, but like you wanted like 10 to 20 years to prepare for that job. And you had and then what if you screwed up in front of like hundreds of thousands of people that are watching and feeling like, why did this guy get this, like that all the time? So there was, it was, I loved it. I mean, and I'm so grateful for it, but it's also a period where it was just, you know, this was a lot of it. Like, I would sit down to write, and a voice in my head would start to be like, you're going to write that? That's terrible. Everyone's going to know you suck. And I'd be like, a panic attack. Your heart would start to go like, you know, like just, okay, I'm going to go for a walk, come back, sit down. You're going to try that? That's even worse than the last thing. You write, okay, panic attack. You're going to get up, walk around. And so, you know, I'm just trying to say to people out there, like, it's also, you know, it's okay. Like, we're all, I mean, it's okay to feel like when you're on something that you think is your dream thing, for me too was like, again, you can have both those things can exist at once. You can be so deeply grateful, like it's the best thing that ever happened to you, but it can be really scary too. And, trying to negotiate those things or navigate those things at that time was really hard. And to the degree that, like, I don't know, I was saying this the other day, like we got an Eisner nomination for Barnstormers, and I'm really thrilled, like mostly because it's such a odd personal book, and we put a ton into it, and Lisa Tula is just really brought it to life. And so even more for her than for me, I'm so thrilled that it's nominated. But I was lucky enough to win a couple or a few Eisners when I started, and again, it was like the significance of it was so overwhelming to me, and I understood what an honor it was, but it felt like I couldn't enjoy it at all because it was so much more like, oh my God, even more like I don't deserve this. And so, not that I deserve it now, I'm just saying it's different. It was 10 years ago. It's really nice at this stage in my career to be able to not feel that way about stuff, and instead be happy and sort of grateful for any little thing, and say, like, I don't know, I know it sounds hokey, but I mean it, like to be able to not, it's not even feeling like you deserve it, but not feeling constantly like you're just like barely hanging on. Like at this point, I feel really in charge of my own decisions. And it's like I was saying before about Graham's question. It's like being able to say, I know this might not make sense for somebody else, but I want to try this weird book, and I can, and, I take the financial hit or do this, or all of it is about that. Just trying to be really, really honest with yourself about what things you want to try and what things you think will also be good for comics. Cause that is a big part of it. Like I might make wrong decisions. I'm sure I'll pick things that, will be, I don't know, that won't work. But the things I've tried to do with Comixology and Distillery and with Image are different, and the things that we do privately with Best Jacket, I'm proud of. I'm proud of the things we've tried or are trying to be a part of for comics. And, I don't know. It's nice to be on that side of things now.
I just
want to not always just feel like, I
want to leave this discussion and talk about Distillery, but with the image of, as you were describing this, I was just imagining your future biopic in the style of the Kevin Kline movie Dave, where he suddenly has to become the president of the United States. And you're like, I'm the president of comics now. What's happening?
Yeah, it was just, it was, I don't know. I'm like, it's really nice to be on the other side of that whole arc, and again, I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. It gave me my whole life, and we told stories that I'm so proud of, everything I'm proud of from that. But yeah, I mean, there were, I feel like I wasn't the best dad or husband or that stuff during that period, because all I could think about was how do I earn this? How do I work every minute of every day to just always put everything I have into taking advantage of this opportunity? And it was very unhealthy, even though I think at the end of the day, it was a good learning experience too, for what really are the most important priorities, both creatively and personally in life.
Okay, let's do future talk now with this question from Oscar Osario, who says, hey, Scott, could you please share a bit more about your plans with Distillery? Will you be taking submissions at any point? Every comic book creator in this chat and who watches this in future wants to know the answer to the second one. So lay out the Distillery of it all for us.
Yeah, sure. Well, Distillery, again, when we did Comixology, it's my belief, like at this point in my career, and again, I can make wrong decisions, I'm sure, but I'm trying to be a part of things that I think, whether other people agree, are good moves or not, in terms of like things that will empower creators or also create good relationships with readers, all kinds of stuff. And Comixology, to me, the belief that you could do browsability, because one of the big problems is like my kids, comics are too expensive for them. It's just the truth, like, so the idea, and they browse everything digitally. I believe in Comixology's mission, or the ability to make comics browsable digitally and then collectible physically. I honestly, whether or not Comixology is the place to do that, I believe it is. But now with all of the changes there, I'm really saddened to see a lot of my friends and the people I love that are there not there anymore, and to see Amazon sort of take a different tack with it. That said, being there, that was the mission, and I've never felt more supported than when they were robust and really and with Chip and David and Bryce, and they gave the creators their rights to their books, even though they were Amazon. I mean, it was just like, what a great place. So I believe in all the stuff that I really proselytized for with them, and I still do, about that idea that comics needs to move forward in a way that allows a greater audience to browse digitally, so that they can be excited to go to the store as a hub to buy things that they want collectively. Because I just think the books are getting too expensive and there's too many of them, print wise. That's just my opinion. Distillery, what I really love about it, it's Chip and David, who, were at Comixology when it was at its peak for me, in terms of the way they supported creators, the risks they took on really progressive new voices, the kinds of books they published that I don't think would have the same kind of support elsewhere, really. Was really excited about the books that we were next to from friends and peers, and absolutely new voices. And so with Distillery, the idea was to create a company where the creators would have like ownership and stake in the company itself, the founding creators, where you get paid a page rate, and then that page rate wouldn't necessarily even be recouped, that you'd be able to invest in the company and create your own sort of way of relating to it, so that, it wasn't, it was an incredibly generous deal for creators, but it depended on them really believing in the company and bringing their best books. That's what they want, is they want you to bring, your best work, which I always try and do no matter where I am. And so the thing that's different about it is that all of us that are a part of it, and I have so many friends that are now, part of this team, from Jamie McKelvey and James Tynan and Jock, and, just like on and on. I mean,
it's like a greatest
so many. I know, I'm blown away. Ram and Steph, just everybody. I mean, I'm so grateful to be a part of it. That owning something together feels like the natural step from, going from doing solely licensed work like at DC, to then branching out and doing creator-owned stuff on the side like Witches, to then starting kind of a footprint in that world, an imprint with Best Jacket, and moving over and really owning my own stuff with my co-creators, to actually having a stake in an actual a publisher, and being a part of that with people that I love and believe in creatively and inspired by. So the books are going to be, I don't know how much has been released publicly, so I don't want to go get out over my skis too much.
Say them into my phone.
I know, right? But they're going to be beautiful. They're looking at like the best sort of format, the big size, really beautiful, beautiful printing, print. Like, they want a really great space in retail in the stores themselves, and the shops. We're going to make a big outreach for retailers and be a big part of comic shops, and then have a really interesting and kind of dynamic digital component too. So for me, the big selling point, honestly, is having a stake in a company, a print comic company, essentially, with people I believe in, who I know are going to bring their best work, and doing books in a way at a place that's really creator forward, really creator friendly, and again, allows for a lot of ownership over the rights, a lot of stake in the rights, all that kind of stuff. And I just think it's a great, it's a really, really generous and interesting math that David and Chip have created, and they're really bold in their creative vision and the stuff that they've published. So I'm really proud to be a part of it, and think that, I can't wait for you guys to see what we're making. The Devil's Cut book that they just announced that they're going to have at San Diego has some really fun stuff. I have a short with Francesco in it, and I've seen the other stuff, and it's out of this world. So I'm really, really excited for what we're cooking up, and I'm proud to be a part. Again, it's like trying things. Like, it would be easy to just be like, I'm doing another book here or there, or doing going back and just doing Batman, or going back and just doing, but I want to try things that could be something really special in comics and move the needle forward in interesting ways, with people I love and believe in, or could fail. I'd rather, I don't think it will, but I'm just saying, like, look, the same thing, like Comixology, it's not like it's gone. But what it was and the amount of people there and the people that were there, as everybody knows, are not there anymore. It didn't turn out the way I was hoping. I thought it would be different. I thought it was going to expand in different ways, but I couldn't be prouder to have, been a part of what it was while they were there. And I'm still a part. I'm still putting out books with them and that, but I believe in what they were trying to do. And that's the way I feel about Distillery. And I think my assumption is that, what they're going to do is just we're all going to release, stuff over the course of the first couple of years, sooner probably. But I think everyone on that roster has books up and running or planned at this point. So you're going to see a lot of great stuff, and they've got a big lineup of things coming out. So I assume they're going to start taking submissions once we're over the hump of the first wave of books. But I know I'm sure they'll be very good in public about their policy, but yeah, I think they have their hands full for a little while with all the creators that they've enlisted. And again, it's Murderer's Row that I'm just like lucky to be a part of.
So safe to say that there will be lots of fun stuff coming out at San Diego, New York, all the big conventions for the rest of the year.
Yeah, exactly. I have I think there'll be a lot of big fun announcements about it over there, and you'll get a taste of it with the Devil's Cut stuff, which you should totally pick up.
Yeah. Okay, Scott, we're almost at time, but I want to send us off from this live stream with the question that we always end with here in the Popverse, because we celebrate the best in TV, movies, and comics. So what are you geeking out about right now that you're not working on? I know you gave us a bunch of great comic recommendations. So are you watching TV? Are you playing Tears of the Kingdom? What are you into right now?
Oh my God. Tears of the Kingdom is our life over here. We're playing it so side mission-y. We're in Rito Village right now, doing the whole thing with Tulin, the little boy bird who's getting his bow back from that thing. And we have we have the warm clothes. It's me and my 11-year-old. My 16-year-old loves it too. And now the 4-year-old, he's like, let's go play Zelda. So we have waited, and we play with a lot of time with Jock's daughter, Isla, who's my son's age. So we Tears of the Kingdom and Charles Soule, his daughter, Rosie, Tears of the Kingdom, we've been waiting for since Breath of the Wild, which was my favorite game of all time. That and Last of Us. So for me, Tears of the Kingdom, we were absolutely geeking out over and hip deep in, and we don't want it to end, so we're just playing it as side mission-y as possible. But comic wise, I named a lot of the stuff that I've been really into, the Local Man, and but also at DC, I mean, there's just a ton of good stuff right now. I'm loving World's Finest with Mark Waid and and Dan. I will say this too, I got an early peek at some of the stuff coming out, and Tom King's Wonder Woman with Dan Mora, right? It's Dan Mora, I think, is the one on it. But I read the first issue and saw the outline. It's amazing. It's so good. I think it's going to blow people away. And, I read it and I wrote Tom right away. I mean, we're friends. And I was just dude, this is a run that I've been man, this is so good. So I will say come September, I think you're going to really be loving Wonder Woman. I mean, what other stuff? I mean, TV wise, same as everybody, obsessed with Succession.
Yep.
I watch too much. I've been trying to get back into exercising, and the only way that I can do it is to listen to things that are totally formulaic. So I've watched every episode of I Survived, which I don't know why I'm obsessed with.
Oh my God. Did you see the one where the guy put his finger in his neck?
Oh my God. Yes. Did you see the one where the guy was stung by bees and fell off the roof? There was and he was and it was he was and I had to, he was I mean, sometimes I watch it because it's always I might be having a bad day, but you know what I mean? I didn't have my head ripped off by a bear.
So
right. Yeah. And they survived. Okay. and it teaches you weird lessons too, where it's if you're ever attacked by a bear, it's this. And I'm I live nowhere, but I'm in the woods, but there's no bears. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's if you're ever caught in a toxic spill of whatever, this or a tornado, and I'm always I got it. I will hold on to the thing in the board jam and whatever. But yes, I don't know why. So I've seen every episode of I Survived. My wife is just why are you watching that again? I'm because you never know, and they all live. It makes me feel good. So whatever. Yes, too much of that. But I don't know. I'll come back at you with better. I'm reading a book now that I like called Cold People.
Great.
By Rob, and it's really interesting. It came out, I think it's just a year old, but it's about, I listen to a lot of stuff on Audible because we have to drive a lot, and it's about an alien invasion that happens, and everybody is forced to move to Antarctica because it's the only place these aliens like can't go, and we form a new society there. And it's actually like very much about this moment and AI and all kinds of stuff, even though it has this like completely wild premise. I love it. I'm only like a quarter of the way in, but I love it. Cold People. You should check it out.
Cold People. I also didn't think I Survived was ever going to be evoked here, so this is like so funny and such a treat for me personally. Scott.
Oh yeah. Oh, and you know what it is? It's Daniel Simpare. That's the artist. Yes, I was saying Dan Mora, but Daniel Simpare. Sorry.
Because we were talking about World's Finest, and Dan Mora is on World's Finest. It's the Daniels of it all.
Exactly. Dan and Dan. Yes, but yes, it's the wait for Tom King's Wonder Woman. It's gonna be awesome.
There you go. Scott, thank you so much for joining us for this AMA. Thank you for being our guinea pig. This was so much fun. We didn't get to nearly everyone's questions, so I hope we will have you back in future, or maybe live at a Comic-Con.
I'd love that. Anytime. I always love talking to Ashley and Popverse. I love what you guys do. I'm really excited for you. It's nice to see you guys just flourishing and doing so well. And I'm always here for anything you want. And anyone out there that like you didn't get to ask your question or whatever, I'm really easy to find on social media, especially now that we're on strike and I have like much more time on my hands. So yeah, come find me and ask me anything over on Twitter, or mostly the best places. Yeah, I mean, I'm on Twitter and Instagram and that stuff, but Our Best Jacket, where we teach classes and do a newsletter and all that stuff.
Yeah, if you've ever thought about learning how to write comics, Our Best Jacket is a really, really like untouched resource, I think.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that.
All right, Scott, I'm going to say goodbye to you. Before I say goodbye to everyone, see you later. Oh, sorry. I hope everybody watching and everyone watching in the future, I hope Scott blew your mind as much as he blew my mind. I started with a brain fart, and now I am empowered to go out there and hopefully create as many incredible things as Scott has. Thank you, everyone, for joining us live for this very first ever AMA that we're doing here in the Popverse. Like our very, very helpful comment says, don't forget to join us again on Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to have another incredible comic creator joining us for a short form interview on Friday. Preeti Cheever is going to come and talk about writing Spider-Man, her Spider-Man books. Tom Trainer, it's such a great stream. Thank you so much. As always, you can find everything that we talked about here, all of our links, everything that you might want to reference in the comments below in the description of this video. While you're here, why not go to thepopverse.com where you can find everything that we're working on at all times. Get yourself a Popverse membership. Popverse members got first access to asking questions, to this live stream, and they're going to help us shape these in the future. So I really hope you will consider joining us and becoming a member. Our next live show is MCM London, which is going on this weekend. And then the next time you can see me is at Florida SuperCon. So if you're an East Coast person, I hope I will see you live at Florida SuperCon. We're so excited for everything over there. I have been your host and video producer, Ashley Victoria Robinson. I thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us. I will see you on Friday. And not only that, but I will see you next time.